this here is Lenore Zan, a.k.a. Rogue.
It's Cal Dodd here, voice of Wolverine from X-Men, the animated series, Bub. I want you to join me at The Uncanny Experience, the ultimate destination for X-Men fans just like you.
Where you will become a mutant student at Xavier's.
And be able to explore the school campus, shop the vendor hall, and meet the creators and stars of the X-Men universe.
There'll be panels, parties, immersive activities all throughout the historic mansion. Whether you're a fan of the comics or the movies or the animated series, you'll find something to love.
This is Chris Claremont. I'm looking forward to seeing you all at the Uncanny Experience.
It's gonna be one hell of a ride, Bub.
I bet it will be uncanny.
Get your tickets now, sugar, at theuncannyexperience.com.
Bum bum bottom 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 bum bum doobie doobie da 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 doobie doobie da 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 doobie doobie da 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 bum bum bottom bum bum doobie doobie da 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 doobie doobie da 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 doobie doobie da 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 bum bottom bum bum bottom ba da da 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 ba ba. You are now in session with the Comic Book Couples Counseling Podcast. I'm Lisa Gullickson.
I'm Brad Gullickson.
And each month we evaluate a different iconic romance within the four-color realm. In this episode, we ascend as if astral projected through our own wildest dreams to the top of the DC booth at San Diego Comic-Con to talk to writer Nicole Maines about her upcoming graphic novel, Bad Dream, A Dreamer's Story.
August is nearly done, as is our San Diego Comic-Con coverage, which happened back in July.
Time is like taffy. We just pull it and stretch it.
Well, you know, like we've been saying every week, you know, this past San Diego Comic-Con really was a record-setting event for comic book couples counseling and was filled with many wild dreams. And then when we got back home, the wild dreams kept on happening. My birthday was just this past Friday, and I achieved one of my new dreams of going to Hell's Kitchen in Washington, D.C.
This is truly an example of how to become one. Because when we started our relationship, I was the only individual who was obsessed with cooking competition TV shows. And I watched them all. I watched Top Chef and Master Chef and Chopped and Cutthroat Kitchen and all of this stuff.
And then a pandemic happens.
And the stuff we would generally watch separately, we were suddenly watching together.
Right, because we were always in the same room or the
Exactly.
same building together. We could not escape each other. So that meant if Lisa wanted to watch some Cutthroat Kitchen, Brad had to watch some Cutthroat Kitchen. And then Brad discovered that Brad loved Cutthroat Kitchen. And then Brad loved Top Chef. And then Brad had to watch all the shows that Lisa had already watched. And Lisa's like, well, I've seen MasterChef already. And I was like, well, guess what? I'm going to watch all of MasterChef too. And that led to us finally watching Hell's Kitchen, which was a show I never thought I was ever going to enjoy because I thought the character of Gordon Ramsay, you know, putting like 2 slices of bread against that poor chef's head and saying like, what are you? An idiot sandwich. I was like, that's toxic and evil.
Which is true.
Which
It
is true. But also turns out I really love Hell's Kitchen.
We've been watching it in reverse, starting with the most recent Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, so you get to see our society really crumble going backwards. So it
Yeah.
does show like, well, we've made baby steps to the elevator regarding progress.
Right. In fact, we haven't gotten to the idiot sandwich season.
No.
It must be very, very early.
Yeah, I'm nervous.
We have agreed, we have held hands and looked deep into each other's eyes and said, like, if it gets too toxic, we can jump ship and stop watching Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, and I keep waiting for that to happen, and we've bumped against that possibility, but then also I'm like, oh, is this Wellington going to be rendered correctly? I gotta know!
Yeah, so all of that is to say, 10 years ago, I never imagined that going to Hell's Kitchen would have been Brad's birthday treat and not my birthday treat. It's really all coming up Millhouse for me.
I think you actually said as we were... So, first off, you know, to go to Hell's Kitchen, you have to book your table months in advance. We booked this, I think, back in June.
Because we wanted to do it for our anniversary.
And we couldn't make that happen.
And no dinner reservations were available.
And then I was like, well, what about my birthday on the 18th?
And there was no dinner reservations available then either.
So we said, well, there is a noon table. So let's grab lunch at Hell's Kitchen. You can still get the Wellington. That was the only thing I was concerned about was the Wellington. As long as I can eat the Wellington, I'll be happy. And so we got to the wharf early, about an hour early, and we were walking around, and one of the things you said to me is like, well, this actually feels like it's my birthday? Is this my birthday present?
And your response was weirdly defensive. Like,
well,
am I taking your thing?
I am an only child, Lisa. So I was like, no, this is not your birthday present. This is my birthday present. And, eventually I let that only child, subside a little bit, and I allowed you to enjoy my birthday also.
So generous.
Now, what can we say about the Hell's Kitchen experience? Was it everything we thought it was going to be?
Well, in some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. We, of course, have to say, expectation is the enemy of a good time.
Absolutely.
So we were very much anticipating this lunch. And
we had planned it out,
yeah.
right? So we knew we wanted the signature dishes, and we also knew we didn't want to be those people who ordered everything right up front. We wanted to do this in stages because we
wanted to pretend we were making decisions.
Well, I mean, look, maybe that's true in your case. For me, I wanted to make sure that we weren't doing the usual Brad thing of let's scarf down the food as quick as possible, because we were going to be spending so much money.
Yes.
We wanted to make this experience last as long as possible. And it is an absurd amount of money that, one, we can barely afford, and we certainly could not afford it on the regular basis.
Yeah, we were really trying to make an experience out of it because it's a rare extravagance.
Yeah.
And we know that part of that price tag is the novelty of it being a Gordon Ramsay Hell's Kitchen restaurant.
Yes.
Despite the fact that this is not like a real, they've never shot Hell's Kitchen in DC. In fact, they couldn't. I was like, could they if they had, there's no way you
There's
could
no way. Not at the wharf, no.
So there was a weird fantasy cosplay element to being
yes. I mean, it feels very silly.
Yeah.
And I had the giggles the way that you get when you're feeling like you're pretending.
Yeah, it was like going to medieval times. It was going to Gordon Ramsay medieval times.
Yeah, but again, so much more expensive.
Right.
And we had scoped out the menu. We knew about how much we were going to be spending. We saved for this opportunity. And so, yes. So we had our menu picked before we even walked in the door. And we knew we wanted the signature dishes, the signature hot apps and the signature entrees. The hot apps being, the scallops, the pan-seared scallops, the lobster risotto, the Wellington, the beef Wellington for me, and the crispy skin salmon. And really, Brad wanted all of it.
Right. You guys know that I have reservations when it comes to consuming a lot of meat. I have complicated moral things about it. But also, I contain multitudes.
And I appreciate those multitudes, Lisa. and so so we planned that. We had a lovely waiter. I asked him, well, how heavy are these two apps? If we get these two apps for both of us, are we not going to have room for the entrees? And he was like, well, it depends on how hungry you are. And I was like, well, I haven't eaten since dinner the night before.
Yeah.
I'm prepared. He's like, you'll be fine. Of course he said that. But he was super nice.
He was super nice.
His name was Bruno. And he asked, well, have you ever gone here before? No, this is our first time. He's like, oh, have you ever watched the show? And I was like, well, maybe an episode or two. And we got the appetizers. And so I would say that the pan-seared scallops were really darn good.
But they weren't seared on both sides, which is a huge sticking point on the show.
Yeah. And part of me was like, well, should I send these back?
Never. Never.
The retail manager in me could never do that. So I accepted the scallops seared on one side, and they were crazy delicious.
Yes.
The lobster risotto, not my thing. I love lobster. I love risotto. But this was
Here's my issue
I was
with it.
underwhelmed by it.
Here's my issue with it. It was served on a cold plate.
Yeah.
And the risotto was loose enough to make the pool of risotto, but when you do that, there's a lot of surface area exposed, so it cools down very quickly.
Yeah, it was like a buffet plate.
Yeah, it was not a satisfying temperature.
And so
it was a little cold.
Was disappointed by that, and then I started to worry about my Wellington.
Oh no!
I was like, am I going to be disappointed by my beef Wellington? And I've never had any kind of beef Wellington. I never had the desire to have a beef Wellington until I watched Hell's Kitchen. But then the desire became real and solid, and I was craving it. And I this is at the point where I started to get a little nervous. So we finish our hot apps, and the waiter comes back. He's like, so, Haro, are you full? And I was like, no, we're not full. And we ordered the entrees, and we actually ordered another side of wild mushrooms.
Which were delicious.
And when they showed up, when all of those things showed up, I honestly would say, like, my favorite thing of the whole meal were those wild mushrooms.
Oh, yeah.
And the Wellington was real darn good. Thank goodness. I was very satisfied by the Wellington. However, there was white fat exposed. And as any Hell's Kitchen viewer knows, that white fat should have been rendered out. So it was a little undercooked.
So these are standards we've only gotten through television. You know what I mean? So, like, I do wonder, like, having the Hell's Kitchen show, does it actually do any favors to the Hell's Kitchen restaurant? Because now we have these standards that would not exist otherwise.
Well, when we got there, Hell's Kitchen was not that full, and it actually felt a little weird to be like...
We got there at like 11:40, which is a little early for a heavy meal.
And there just were not a lot of people in the room.
Right.
But it started to fill up, and I started to really watch what people were doing as they were getting their food, and I did not see anybody said anything back.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Because it was all delicious. It tasted great.
And that's the thing. So I cut into this Wellington, and it was very chewy. It was very flavorful. The textures were incredible. Satisfied all the way through.
Right.
And I will say, like, the mashed potatoes or like the potato puree that was on the plate was maybe like not the most exciting side.
Right.
But it's still tasty.
It's
Still
what it
tasty.
came with, so.
And then the crispy skin salmon. I've never had a crispy skin salmon. I've had lots of salmon in my life, but I've never had one that has a skin that you can tap like creme brulee.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was also crazy delicious.
It's good because it's salty, it's fatty, it's like eating bacon.
Yeah, bacon. It was like bacon on top of your salmon. So I really enjoyed that. And the lentils that accompanied that with the fennel salad was also really, really delicious.
Yes.
We did also get cocktails, too.
Yes. I was going to say, because when you said the mushrooms were the best thing, I'm like, I don't know. My cocktail was really good.
You had the Notes from Gordon, which was a gin-based drink?
Right, and it had lemon and lemongrass and green tea. Like, it claimed a lot of flavor notes that I don't know if I necessarily could catch, but it was like your standard, like, kind of sweet, kind of tart gin drink, which I love. But what I didn't know when I was ordering it is that it would come with, like, a Union Jack wrapped around that was, like, supposed to be a note from Gordon.
A literal note from Gordon.
Yeah, and I opened it up and it said that this fish is so raw, it's still finding Nemo. And I was just like, this is your restaurant, dude. Like, do you really want to put that in the back of my mind? But
He's a character,
cute.
right? Like, he is a brand, he is a character, he has carefully constructed that character, and he's got to sell that character.
Yeah.
And then my drink was the Meet Your Maker, and it was a Maker's Mark bourbon-based drink, and it was...
With strawberry.
It was good. It was very good. Yeah, strawberry and apple. But yours was the superior drink.
Yeah,
and
it was
maybe,
so good. And I liked it because it was tall.
Yeah,
like,
a lot of it.
I like a cocktail that drinks like an actual beverage.
So maybe that was the most delicious thing. I don't know. I think
really,
the mushrooms.
really good.
I'm going with the mushrooms still. And then we closed out the meal with dessert, and we shared a sticky toffee pudding.
Which Bruno said was on him. Very sweet.
Yeah.
Because it was Brad's birthday.
Yeah, I let everybody know that it was my birthday. The
Yeah.
hostesses wished me a happy birthday. Bruno wished me a happy birthday.
And they gave him a candle and did not sing,
No
which
singing.
is like the best.
But Lisa sang a little bit. She
like
was
quietly.
Happy birthday, Mr. President. Like...
The sticky toffee pudding
It was
bomb.
divine.
And I do not use that ridiculous term lightly. It was so good.
Yeah, I like, and When the bill came and I saw, they did take the cappuccinos off, which we had with the sticky toffee pudding, and they took the sticky toffee pudding, and then I paid the bill, and I was, it was my birthday event. We spent an hour and a half there, almost 2 hours there, and I've never had a birthday quite like it, and it was wonderful to share with you, and I liked that it was something that really was a gift from you. Before you, I never would have done anything like this. And so it felt like, a twofer. It felt like a twofer gift from Lisa.
Yeah, but now I want to go when we're considering going to Vegas for my 40th birthday, and I was like, should we get our reservations for Hell's Kitchen now? Because I'm like, I'm a third child, and I was like, we should have an equally lavish thing for my 40th
Well,
birthday.
we gotta look at that bank account, because we've got a lot going on this fall, which we'll talk about in the outro.
Yeah.
We're going to be in many places this fall.
Yeah.
And we're very excited about all of that. And hopefully one of them is Las Vegas for Lisa's birthday on the 27th of December.
Turning 40.
Turning 40. Ooh, I didn't say how old I was. I didn't want to say how you
I'm
were.
the kind of 40 where people look at my picture and go like, 40? No way. And I go, yes, I keep very good care of myself.
But I also want to thank everybody on social media and who texted me and messaged me, wishing me a happy birthday. All of those notes meant so much to me. I get lately, in recent years, the last 2 birthdays, I've gotten a little melancholic around my birthday. And it really does mean a lot when you send me a message just saying happy birthday, Brad. And it was quite emotional. It was quite emotional to get those all throughout the day while I was stuffing my face of beef Wellington and beyond and beyond. And then after that, we went to my parents' house, and actually we went to Third Eye Comics, because you got to go to your comic book store on your birthday, bought some comics, and then we went to my parents' house and had actual birthday cake.
Overall,
and
great
a song.
day.
A great
day.
birthday. And so Hell's Kitchen. We did it. So fun. Is it as good as like the taco stand down the street, Lisa?
I would have if it just came down to the food, Senior Ramon's.
Yeah.
Every weekend.
It's my favorite food.
It's
my
so
favorite
good.
food. And like on Hell's Kitchen and MasterChef, they always talk about like, oh, you really elevated that humble taco. And every time they say that, I want to punch them in the face.
Tacos are the most delicious food.
Yeah, it just drives me crazy.
It doesn't need to be elevated because it is already at the top of the
food chain.
Food chain.
Yeah,
is
the
that
food
how it
pyramid.
works? I don't know.
It hangs.
You guys get the intention of our metaphor, even if we can't articulate.
No,
our
I'm
metaphor.
doing it.
Okay, go
the
for it.
taco is the sun that hovers above the food pyramid.
That's right.
Okay. Now everyone's like, that's all great. I'm glad you had a good birthday, Brad, but we're here for Nicole Maines.
Well, you know what? You have that 15-second skip button. You listen to us blather on like that's your fault.
So we had this conversation with Nicole at San Diego Comic-Con International on Saturday. We actually had to run from our conversation with Todd McFarlane, which you hopefully listened to last week. And we had to run from the Image Comics booth to the DC Comics booth to make this interview. And as cool as it is to have an interview inside a Comic-Con booth like we did at Image, it's a whole other thing to go atop a booth.
Speaking of exalted places.
Yes, and sit on a couch and have a conversation with Nicole Maines with this 360-degree view of the exhibit hall. I've always seen these interviews on, TV, YouTube, DC Comics' page, Sci-Fi Channel, that kind of stuff. And I've always gone like, wow, I would love to be on top of one of those booths one day. And we've been going to Comic-Con for over a decade now. Mm-hmm. And this is our first time as press, and as first-time press attendees, we finally got to go atop the DC Comics booth, and it was everything that I imagined.
Yeah, it was nice up there. We felt special.
And we got to finally meet in person Michael and Clark from DC. We also met Ashley from Popverse. She was doing an interview with Ram V up there. And Nicole was in process of an interview. And while she was finishing up that interview, we were sitting on this couch next to Nicole's mother.
Yeah, it was like a family affair.
But it is a little weird, right? So when you do an interview at the Image Comics booth, you're like around the corner. You can't see the interview that's going on in progress. But here you get to just watch Nicole wrap up this conversation.
And they seem to be having the best time.
And you go, are we going to have as good a time with Nicole as she's currently having with this person? And we didn't get that person's name.
Yeah.
So we can't like link to their interview with Nicole. I wish we had like touched base with them. But like that interview, like they were having, they were having a blast. And you're getting a little jealous of their blast.
Granted, once we got to our interview, we've just found out that Nicole is a ray of sunlight. And she makes everyone feel so special, and she makes us feel like, oh no, we did have the best time, which I think is the hallmark of a great interviewee and person.
This is actually our second time talking to Nicole Maines. She was previously on the podcast along with Mark Wade and Leah Williams discussing Lazarus Planet. So click on the links in the show notes and check out that episode if you have not already.
But this is our first interview of having Nicole all to ourselves, which I think was like, yes.
Yeah, and gave us an opportunity to really drill into the Dreamer character, the character who has been popping up in events like Lazarus Planet, but also, Superman, son of Kal-El, and will be appearing in a new graphic novel next year. It comes out on April 2nd of 2024, Bad Dream, A Dreamer's Story, which Nicole Maines has written, and it is illustrated by Rye Hickman.
So we didn't have any material to read for this interview, so this interview is a lot more like process based in our general comic book couples counseling convo. Yeah. But I love her talking about how the comic book creator community has really embraced her and is setting her up for success to make her story about Dreamer come true.
And I always love to hear someone who comes from one artistic medium discuss what it's like to enter a new artistic medium and what does working with Dreamer in comics reveal to her about her character.
Yeah.
So as we've already said, it happened atop the DC Comics booth. So all of Comic-Con is happening around us. So you're going to hear that white noise,
which we consider ambiance.
I was really concerned about it before we published our conversation with Eric Burnham at the IDW booth talking about Saturday Morning Adventures Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But having listened to that episode, as well as our Todd McFarlane episode, I actually really like the ambiance.
Yeah. Credit to those tiny Zoom recorders. They do a great job.
Amazing. They should sponsor us.
Everyone should.
Everyone should.
Why not? We're great.
So why don't you kick back, turn that volume up and enjoy this conversation with Nicole Maines at San Diego Comic-Con International 2023.
Yes, comic book couples counseling.
I love it.
So, I'm so excited about learning more about Dreamer's origin story, but I am still just taken with your origin story as a comic book writer.
Thank
like
you.
The story of you going into DC and pitching and them going like, well, why don't you write it?
Yeah,
So,
wasn't expecting that.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a curveball for old Nicole.
But now you've gotten to stretch your writing legs a little bit with Lazarus Planet and DC Pride.
Wild.
So are you feeling more and more like a comic book writer every day?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I'm still very new to all of this, and I'm still I don't know what anything is. But DC has been really, really fantastic of walking me through the baby steps and have had really great mentors, getting to work with Mark and Tom and Paul and Andrea, and everyone has been really, really awesome and really supportive.
I love the idea of going like, Dreamer deserves to continue to exist.
Yeah.
This story is necessary and needs to be out there. And it's like, and those shoes are there, and you are the person to fill them.
Apparently. I mean, I was saying earlier, it truly demonstrates how, little I understood about comic book writing, that I went in pitching an ongoing for a character who had never had anything and being like, yeah, here's a story for an ongoing for a new character. You should find someone to write this, not me. Just someone to write this story that I came up with.
Yeah. Easy.
Easy. And they were calling my bluff, and they were like, okay, go write a graphic novel.
Yeah, but I think that the YA space is such a beautiful place.
It's been really
for
awesome.
Nia Doll.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, she has a story that I think is so important for a lot of young folks right now, especially a lot of young queer folks. And getting to share that and get to expand on her origin story has been really rewarding. And getting to have oh, how did she meet this character? How does this look? How does this relationship look back home? Getting to delve into her family life, getting to expand on Naltor and what that her relationship with that has been really fantastic.
We've loved seeing Dreamer being incorporated into something like Lazarus Planet.
Yeah.
We loved Lazarus Planet.
Thank you.
I'm curious now, though, that Dreamer will have some real space to occupy this graphic novel. You've touched on a little bit, but what can we really expect for that character?
So this book takes place in Parthas, in Nia's hometown, which is a hidden, secret alien refugee town in the middle of, nowhere, America. And she has grown up in this incredibly diverse city with people all over the galaxy, all different backgrounds and experiences. And for some reason, the weirdest thing they have seen is a trans girl. And that is the one thing that these people cannot get their minds around, which I think is something that an experience that a lot of trans folks can understand, especially as we're facing scrutiny from other members of the LGBTQ community, and we're like, how are we the weirdos?
Right.
Like, it wasn't that long ago that we were all in this boat together. What happened? So she grows up in this town completely alone, and her only friend is her older sister, Maeve. And her Maeve has lived her entire life knowing that she was going to inherit their mother's future-seeing powers, knowing that she was going to one day become this seer, the superhero. And she's trained every day with their mom for that. And Nia has resigned to being the supporting character in her own life. And Maeve is the star, and I'm here to support her. I'm here to be the guy in the chair. I'm here to be the superhero suit designer. And I'm just going to cheer for her from the background. And when she gets pelted in the face with a kickball and unlocks her and awakens, she's like, crap, it's me. I cannot take this from her too. I cannot, I know Maeve has lived her life feeling the pointing and the laughing and the whispering alongside me. I know it bothers her. And I can't take this from her too. And so she runs away to Metropolis just to put as much distance as she can between her and her sister so she can figure it out. She doesn't even know what to do. She has no idea what these powers are. She has no idea how to handle them. She's blacking out at weird times and having crazy visions that she doesn't understand. And then she finds community, and she finds found family, and she finds girls like her who have gone through something similar, and she realizes or maybe learns what sisterhood is supposed to feel like, and what community feels like. And then of course I had to throw in some crazy space destiny superheroes, Naltor villains, Regicide, and because I like it flowery. I'm a superhero nerd at heart. I can't not. They were telling me, the young adult novels. It's not Bruce Wayne becoming Batman. It's Bruce Wayne becoming Bruce Wayne. And I was like, I hear you. What if?
Yeah.
We did that, but also with Batman.
Yeah. Well, queer themes have always been part of mainstream comics.
Absolutely.
But it's always been mutants and aliens. It's always been metaphorical.
Absolutely.
So how empowering has it been, or challenging has it been to approach the trans story in a very literal way?
Well, I'm doing both.
Yeah.
It's because she has this intersectional identity with being half alien herself. So. And growing up in this alien town, she's always felt her identities at odds. And when she goes away to Metropolis and she's brought to A-Town, which was first introduced in Jadzia Axelrod's Hawk Girl, which we know is this alien district in Metropolis, I was like, you know what? It's also the gay district. It is alien and queer. It is the merging of that literal and the metaphor. It's, we have all been the other, the outside, the alien. We know what that all feels like, and that is an experience that unites us. And so Nia goes to this place and is for the first time seeing the two parts of herself not at war with each other, and is understanding that, maybe it is possible to just be myself, and there are people who don't get wrapped up in all of that, who embrace that and celebrate that.
I also like the theme of sisterhood.
Yeah.
And the idea of, like, when you're a sibling, you are raised to create space for each other. And the idea of being yourself is somehow stepping on the toes of someone you love.
Exactly. And the whole journey she has to go through is, you know, how much of myself am I going to continue to sacrifice to make my sister happy? Or is maybe it her responsibility to figure how she's going to deal with this news? And it's not my job to water myself down, to hide a part of myself. And I think that is absolutely a metaphor for queerness, of course. We, as queer people, do we stay in the closet because we don't want to make grandpa upset, we don't want to make mom cry or dad angry? Or do we, you know, say, this is who I am, and you can either get on board or you can lose me, but I cannot force myself to be unhappy to make you more comfortable. So that is a major theme in the story.
How has it been exploring the character in the comics form? What have you learned about your character through this medium?
Oh man, I mean, I already had such a relationship with Dreamer that it was actually pretty easy to translate it into comic books. She's still just as excited as she is, but she's, at this point in time, she's a little more serious about it. Because she's coming into the DC universe all new. She doesn't know what anything is. I've been talking a lot with Paul Kaminsky about this recently, actually. And we're loving this idea of, like, she has these powers that grant her the infinite knowledge of what is going to happen, but she doesn't know who any of the players are. She doesn't know who anybody is, or who's a good guy, who's a bad guy, who she can trust. She's just coming in this, like, I am just trying to make the world safer. I am just trying to guarantee tomorrow and to protect the future. And so she has this, like, fierce drive to live up to the expectations of what her sister was supposed to be, what her mother was, and having the fate of Earth on her shoulders when she doesn't know what anything is. Yeah. So she's still got all those fun quips that Dreamer has, but she's definitely taken on I don't want to say she's more serious, but she's definitely, I guess, more urgent in her missions. And I'm so excited to do more with her, because there's just so much that needs to be explored. In the graphic novel, she's very different from how we know her previously, because this is a Nia who hasn't turned into that fiery, excited to be there young superhero. This is her when she's broken. This is her when she doesn't believe in herself, or she doesn't believe she is destined for anything other than being the major supporting character in her sister's life. So it is, I find it difficult sometimes to write younger Nia, just because I'm so familiar with her in a different way, where I'm like, she's gotta tell a joke here, right? She's gotta be, and I'm like, no, she's not there yet. She's still in the space where she is hurting, and the covering with humor comes after the trauma. She's in the trauma now. So that's been difficult, balancing those two, I guess, timelines, or those two selves. And making sure that character that we all know and love is coming through. And I think it does in a few places. She has a few moments in this comic where you're like, there she is, that's our girl.
And what about the form itself, seeing Dreamer being translated by now multiple artists?
It's so cool. It's my favorite part of the process, is getting to see Dreamer interpreted in different styles and by different artists, and getting to see the way that different people draw her powers and her suit and her hair, and it's awesome. And I've been so excited. And of course, with the graphic novel, I'm working with Rye Hickman, who has been doing spectacular work, and I cannot wait for everybody to see what they've done. I mean, the way that they have done Nia's visions is so cool in this book. We saw a preview of it in this most recent DC Pride, all of them are like that. They are these formless, surreal, upside-down, 2-page spreads that make no goddamn sense. And it's so cool. And every one of them is just epic and awesome. And I'm so excited for this book to come out so I can geek out with people about everything, like, specifically.
That's what I'm also loving about what DC is doing with their YA books, because I think that knowing that it's for young readers who do not have that expectation for this is what comic books look like and this is how comic books operate. Like, comic books are finding this whole new audience of young people.
I'm finding that I get to just tell the story.
Yeah.
And I don't have to try to fit it into a universe at large, or I don't have to keep up with continuity, because that was the hardest part with Lazarus Planet.
It's scary.
They were like, hey, can you write this 10-page comic? And I was like, okay, well, you're going to need to send me every Dr. Fate book you can find. I need to know all about the Dark Justice League. I need to know all about what's happened previously. And Mark was really great that it's sending me Lazarus Planet Alpha ahead of time and being like, this is everything you need to know. Like, just reading the Batman v. Robin stuff. And I was like, what happened before? Just meaning to, like, because I was so out of it, because I was just in my graphic novel mode. And then when I started writing Lazarus, I was like, I am super not up to date with anything that has happened in the DCU right now. So trying to, like, play catch up so I could just for 10 pages.
Yeah.
Just so 10 pages makes sense. It was insane.
Did it feel like an obstacle in your process of getting the graphic novel done? Or did it feel like, okay?
No, it felt like actually a much needed break. And getting to do, like, DC Pride 2021 and getting to do Lazarus Planet and Son of Kal-El came at great times where I was able to, okay, let's put the graphic novel on the back burner for a second. Let me focus on this. And so then when I can come back to it a little bit rested.
Yeah.
It has been really helpful. And because it's so long form, I wasn't rushed at all. And now as we've got the actual publishing date, and now I'm like up against the wall.
That's another layer of reality.
I'm like, okay, I got, like, I'm on the last act. We're on that last, like, 45 pages. And I'm like, my brain is mush. I don't have anything left. Because that's the other part. I get to have breaks from it, but it's that same part of your brain that's always working. And the creative juices are like, give it a roll, she's called Captain.
Yeah.
There's no more.
Yeah. Well, I love, I read another interview with you, and you relayed some of Tom Taylor's advice to you of the idea of, like, use your good ideas.
Use your best
now.
idea now. You'll come up with stuff down the road, but use what you got. And that was really, really helpful. I love him so much. He's been a really great help to me. And just and ahead of Lazarus Planet even, I was reaching out to him and I was like, hey, I'm about to submit this. Can you take a look at these pages? Tell me what you think. And he was like, this is great. You've got way too many words.
Oh, yeah.
And he gave me a great rule of thumb. He was like, in any given panel, aim for 25 words, cap yourself at 50.
Yeah.
And I was over here, like, with 75, 80, and I was like, I mean, I'll try, but I'm a long-winded kind of gal, if you've noticed.
We appreciate it. It's all content for us. So.
Thank you.
So then what's the future for Nicole as a comic creator?
Well, there's definitely stuff that I can't talk about yet, that I can't
But
announce
have
yet.
you been bitten by the bug?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's so much stuff that I want to do with Dreamer. I have such high aspirations for her. I'm like, until she is every member of the Justice League. Jadzia and I love to, I would say joke around, but I think we're dead serious of recreating the Birds of Prey with, like, her, Alicia Yo, and Galaxy, and, like...
I am in
I'm
love.
so excited.
That has to happen.
It would be so cool. Like, there's just... Dreamer is a character that I'm so excited about because she has a power set that sort of instantly explains her involvement in anything.
Right.
And I think she has the potential to be this cool, sometimes villain of the week, sometimes big events, because anything that could reasonably threaten Earth's safety, she could foresee and she could be there. And now with this new power of hers to go into the dream realm and come out through a sleeping person anywhere conceivably in the world, in the country, in the solar system, she could be anywhere for any reason. And that is so much fun. I kind of want her to fight a dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want to see that. I don't know if you do. We want to see
Who
that.
doesn't want to fight a dragon?
You know, kind of like a Kim Possible almost. Like, you know, I'm here to save the world. I'm just your basic average girl who sees the future.
I love Kim Possible being brought into this conversation.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Nicole, we're so excited for Dreamer. The future seems vast for Dreamer.
Yeah,
we're
I
really
can't.
stoked for that.
I'm so excited. I
Yeah.
can't wait. There's so much cool stuff that we're going to get to do with her, and this graphic novel is just the beginning.
Awesome. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you, of course. Pleasure was mine.
Delight.
Yes, Lisa of the past, that was a delight. I'm glad I said it in the moment. That advice about using your best ideas now from via Tom Taylor, I think is like a keeper, because there is this sense of scarcity when it comes to good ideas.
Yeah.
And you like want to withhold them for like some kind of, you know, hypothetical perfect situation in the future, and you know what, more ideas will come. Have faith in yourself.
Yeah, I remember, not to get too personal, but I remember the moment I gave up on writing my own novel. It was because like, well, I'm just not ready to write this idea yet. And
Right.
I kept starting it and going like, oh, this is not good. Like the idea is too good and I'm not good enough for it. And I quit on myself. And if I could go back in time and tell that person, or tell the Brad of the now who could still take that idea and run with it, you got to write your bad stuff first anyway. And this great idea that you have now, use it, write it. You might not execute it the way you want to, but then you have executed it and you've put it out into the world, and then you move on to the next idea that will come.
Right. No, I think a lot about like one of the things I tell my students is like, if they work super hard on a piece, like a piano piece or whatever, like the piece after that piece is so much harder, because now they know how much actual work it's going to be to do like the next thing, because you know how much work a good idea can be. It makes you not want to do it. Not out of like laziness, but out of like self-preservation. You start to become scared of how much effort something is going to take, and it makes you go like, do I even have the resources? Do I even have the deep well of motivation to accomplish this thing now that I know how much work it is?
So let's take our advice from Nicole Maines and Tom Taylor and just get to that good idea now.
Yes.
You know, start creating with what you've got.
Yeah.
So as we said at the top of the show, Bad Dream, A Dreamer's Story with Rye Hickman will be available next year, April 2nd. But you can find Nicole Maines' Dreamer Stories right now on the shelves as well. Lazarus Planet, the main event, just published as a beautiful hardcover. Go seek out that book. Go seek out her stories in Superman, Son of Kal-El. And pre-order Bad Dream. It's available for pre-order, so do that. We've done it.
Yeah, and it's one of the best things you can do for new creators is pre-order their book.
I don't think that was something that I really appreciated until we did Comic Book Couples Counseling, is FOC, Final Order Cutoff. That's so important. That tells the publishers there is a demand for this book. And if there's a demand for this book, there's demand for the next book.
Yes.
So when you pre-order something like Bad Dream, A Dreamer's Story, that's saying, hey, we want more Nicole Maines. So support Nicole Maines, support your favorite creators. Always pre-order. Get those issues in your subscription box.
You're gonna buy it anyway. Unless you're uncertain that you're going to buy the book, especially if you're ordering from your local comic book store. They're an independent business. They can't afford to be ordering books that you're not going to buy. So buy your books.
Yeah, and also, though, pre-order from your local comic book shop and then
Yes.
buy the book. Right?
Yes.
Like, do both of those things at your local comic book shop because they also need your support.
Yeah.
And speaking of rad comic book shops, 4-Color Fantasies, the shop in Winchester, Virginia that we partner with for our Alamo Drafthouse comic book screenings. Our next one is next Sunday, the 27th. We are going to be screening The Mask, co-sponsored with 4-Color Fantasies. But the day before, at 4-Color Fantasies, Trad Moore, comic book artist extraordinaire, will be in attendance, not only signing books like Doctor Strange Fall Sunrise, but he'll be auctioning off 3 original art pieces.
Yes.
That is a raffle that you can partake in if you're in the area. They're not shipping to anybody, these pieces.
But dude, if you're in the area,
You gotta drive out.
4-Color fantasies, just as a store, is worth the drive.
Absolutely. And we're going to be there on Saturday for the raffle, for the signing. And Tradmore the next day will be at our mask screening doing an introduction in person. And tickets for that screening are $4 only. It's part of that national cinema event that is going across the country. And all movies, I think, on that day are $4. So even if you're not in town and you can't go to the mask, check out what's playing at your local theater and go see a movie for $4.
Then our next screening is the entire Dark Knight trilogy on 9/17, starting at noon. You do have to buy each ticket individually, but they're all $7, so $21 for the whole batch, and you get to spend the whole day with us celebrating the bat.
And we're getting some creators to do virtual introductions for those movies. We haven't locked all that down yet, but you should be excited for those intros too. And yeah, we're working on our October screening, and man, if the October screening goes as according to plan, it could be our biggest Alamo Drafthouse Winchester event yet. Oh, cross your fingers, friends, cross your fingers.
And as we've previously mentioned, we are going to be everywhere in the fall. We are going to be at Fantastic Fest in Austin. We're going to be at Lost Weekend in Winchester. We're going to be at New York Comic Con. We're going to be at Baltimore Comic Con doing some panels. And, of course, there's SBX.
Yeah.
I am overwhelmed, but it's supposed to be all good. Yes. I am an anxious person.
Yes. It's exciting to finally announce that we'll be covering all those events as press. It's always fun to attend those shows, and there's so much going on at those shows this year. Excited to connect with a bunch of our friends. Christian Ward will be going to New York Comic Con. We just had a conversation with him about Batman City of Madness.
It's so good.
That conversation will drop in September.
That book is so good.
We had a conversation with Dave Chisholm talking about Miles Davis and the search for the sound.
This book is so good. We have been reading the best stuff.
And then we had a conversation with Patrick Hovarth talking about Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
Which you should be buying because it is great.
I would imagine that all three of those comics, which we
Stampy
read
worthy.
back
Stampy
to back
worthy.
to back in 1 week, are going to be, as Lisa just said, in the Stampies. Ugh. But we are getting ahead of ourselves, Lisa. We got to talk about our final San Diego Comic-Con episode, which will be dropping at the end of this week. It's a full celebration of the Energon universe from Skybound. We had a chance to talk with Robert Kirkman, Joshua Williamson, and Daniel Warren Johnson about what they've got cooking with those G.I. Joes and Transformers. And if you have not read the latest issue of Void Rivals, you need to do so because it is the best issue yet. And we did that interview roundtable style with some of our friends.
Yeah.
Lance from the Comic Book Keepers, Jeremy from the Geekly Grind. It was a lot of fun. It's such a hype episode. And yeah, I'm excited for all things Energon universe.
And don't forget our Patreon, Brad.
No.
We have done it. What
Yes.
I thought was impossible because I had no faith in us. We have done at least one episode for all 75 issues of Sandman.
It took 2.5 years, 75 issues of the original run. We've done 82 episodes.
Yeah, and a lot of those episodes are they're all over an hour. It is so much content.
Our final conversation, which we recorded in the woods of Virginia, is almost 2 hours long, all about Sandman 75. It's such a celebration. It's such an achievement for Comic Book Couples Counseling. I'm so proud of what we've done with those Sandman episodes.
And a lot of the conversations that we had talking about those issues has really shaped our worldview. And
Absolutely.
we really end up talking a lot about how stories change our lives.
And so you can listen to those episodes by joining our Patreon for just $1.
Yeah.
That gets you access to all 82 of those episodes, plus our movie reviews, plus our conversations with other creators. We do Creator Crannies. We're doing a new series called Married to Singles, in which we talk to creators about their favorite single issues. Daniel Warren Johnson, speaking of Daniel Warren Johnson, premiered that series talking about one of his favorite comics, The Nom Number 9 from Marvel Comics. And we've got Chris Somney coming up to talk about his favorite comic, and Jason Ayers of the WWE coming on to talk about his favorite comic. So yeah, Patreon, $1 access to all of that stuff.
We are barreling headfirst into burnout, and it is all for you guys, and it's for us.
Yeah,
we love it so
it's
much.
for everyone. It's for everyone.
So, Brad,
Yes.
Where can our listeners send the words of affirmation to you?
You can find me on most social medias at MouthDork. If you have some words of affirmation for our logo, you can send them to Aaron Prescott at A Cool Hand Fluke. And if you have some words of affirmation for our radical banner art and show posters, send them to Karen Charm at Karen_X-Men fan. Lisa, where can our listeners send their words of affirmation? Lisa, where can our listeners send their words of affirmation to you?
I am always accepting words of affirmation at Sidewalk Siren on Instagram and Twitter. I'm starting to slur my speech, so I'm going to slow down. If you'd like to spend more quality time with us, you can subscribe to us on Podbean, Spotify, Stitcher, RIP.
I think we have till the 29th. I think Stitcher goes away on the 29th.
YouTube, Google, and Apple Podcasts. If you'd like to get exclusive, you can join our Patreon, where you'll get so much content, including weekly bonus episodes.
Yes, if you'd like to reach out and touch us electronically, you can email the podcast, cbccpodcast@gmail.com. You can visit our website, comicbookcouplescounseling.com, or follow us on Instagram, Twitter, I refuse to call it by that other name, Threads, Blue Sky, Hive, Facebook, at CBCC Podcast.
You can give us the gift of 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, and if you'd like to do an active service, why not write a review of the show while you're there? We are fluent and receptive in all 5 love languages. It really warms our hearts and helps the pod.
So until next time, friends, keep your love tank full.
And your psychic rapport open.
Perfect.
Thanks.
One more to go.
No!